This is Cadillac Unscripted, and it is not only Cadillac Unscripted, but it is the 5th anniversary of Cadillac Unscripted. Katie Huckle and I have been doing this now for 5 years. We started on January 2nd, 2020 with Chef Herman.
Oh my goodness. Happy anniversary.
Happy anniversary to you. All these cakes later. I got to tell you, I have had so much fun hosting this show with Katie. This was something that we had talked about for years and years and years, and finally 5 years ago this week we made it happen. And
you made it happen because you're tenacious.
Well, because I knew somehow that you and I would have a rapport on the air.
Right.
You've written 2 of my mortgages, and I knew you were a radio person going way back to college, and you were right here in Cadillac, and it was meant to be. So here we are, 5 years later.
Oh,
I love you
so
thank
much.
You.
Love you too, my friend.
Our first guest of 2025 is a mover and shaker in Cadillac. The president of the Cadillac Area Chamber of Commerce, Caitlyn Stark. Caitlyn, welcome.
Well, thank you for having me, and congratulations on your anniversary.
It's I can't think of anybody better to have on the 5th anniversary show than someone who does so much work for the community in your role. So before we get into the things that we had you here to talk about, tell us what you do in your role as the president of the Cadillac Area Chamber of Commerce.
As president of the Cadillac Area Chamber of Commerce, as well as any community partner, that definition is everything.
He does do everything.
On purpose, because, and jack of all trades, master of none, but being a jack of all trades means you can be the community partner to all.
Right.
And that's why any community leader, whether it's the Visitors Bureau, the Community Foundation, whether it's any local government entity, whether it's your local economic development organization, whether you're a small business, whether you're a nonprofit, whether you're private, whether you're public, we are all interconnected. We are all here for a thriving community. And when you talk about a leadership role at any of those organizations, our priority is to make sure our community thrives, and not one person can do it all. And we're a leader in those major conversations to make sure that not only is our neighbor thriving, ourselves are thriving, the schools that we're sending our kids are going to are thriving, that our local townships and villages, cities are thriving. And why thriving is so important is for the financial capacity, investment, and that goes emotional, spiritual, physical as well for everybody that's around us.
Right. Can you talk to us about your goals? And I know you have so many of them, but what's top priority for Caitlyn in 2025?
Top priority for our businesses in 2025 is to really build on where we've made it. You know, where businesses has really shifted past COVID, we aren't operating in the exact same way anymore. We can't. Regulations are different. The market is different. How people shop, an employee, how they operate is different. We are finding families have more responsibilities at home, so there's more barriers to employment. There's more barriers to going out and shopping. And so how we are working with and beating our businesses looks different than they did previous to 2020. And it took us a couple of years to find out, where are our businesses? What do they need most? So in 2025, we've learned trainings. Regardless of the adjustments and shipments, where our businesses are regulated to do trainings. They have to spend money on it, whether we want to or not, and we want to build up the workforce we have. So our local Chamber of Commerce is going to focus on bringing trainings that you typically have to send people to Grand Rapids or to Mount Pleasant or to Traverse City. We want to bring that locally to reduce cost for our members, reduce time for our members, fit right into the streamline of where you already have to operate, and also build that professional development in our area. Mm-hmm. People have now come out of some of that survival of 2020 in a different way. They have a better understanding of where their own identity is going to be. And so us bringing more leadership opportunities, us having a more transparent platform of where volunteer opportunities are, more committees or participation for people to network, build those personal, professional relationships is going to be important. And then the next part is us being a better storyteller of ourselves. Mm-hmm. What are we doing for you? And how can we translate that? What that third pillar of advocacy, we weren't necessarily a reliant partner before. In the last 4 years, us trying to learn what that meant. But there are so many regulations out there, so many bills that, holy smokes, Batman, we're going to be such intense impacts on our businesses. Us trying to get it out to the members, and our members going, that's great information. I still have no idea what you just said.
and how it's relevant.
And we're going, yep. Great, we agree, because it is hard.
Sure.
And we're trying to juggle all of that. And so those 3 pillars, training, storytelling, and then us doing the advocacy and us being better communicators on it, are really going to be our top priorities this upcoming year.
Okay, thank you. We touched on it before we started our interview, but can you talk about the impact that the new minimum wage law, now again an increase, what does that look like for Cadillac and our surrounding communities?
We are incredibly grateful that the 102nd legislature, where we had this plethora of bills that made us really nervous, so many of them died. But 2 of the packages that also died were some of the exemptions or explanations we were looking for in the minimum wage and the PTO regulations that are coming back out. Because those exemptions didn't pass, we are going to see those increases. So part of it is that Workforce Act that came out in 2018. It is the increases in minimum wage and the additional benefits of your PTO, or the flexibilities of your PTO, that you now have to regulate. So January 1st was that first set, and then February 21st of this year is the second set. And this is part of the increases that will continue until February 21st of 2029. By February 1st of 2029, it will be at about $15. I think it's $14.79. And then after that, minimum wage continues to be that price index, consumer's price index number moving forward. But until then, we just continue to increase up until that $14.79 number. And so those additional increases happen this February. And in addition to that, the accrued PTO that is now required and mandatory. And why is this important to our small businesses, or even our creative businesses, our independent contractors, our consultants? You are now tracking 1 hour of earned PTO every 30 hours that you're working. And this doesn't matter if it's seasonal, if you're part-time, if you're full-time, if you have 1 employee, if you have 500 employees. This new way of tracking is now required. And
for a small business, that seems incredibly complex.
Incredibly.
And affecting the bottom line.
Right.
And the flexibilities that go along with it are really intense, which makes it incredibly hard on our hospitality or our small businesses. If you're an owner and you're relying on employees to come into the office, these flexibilities are all over the map. So an employee can actually not give you that much leeway. All of a sudden, you're out of town. But now you're going to have to keep the business closed, or you're not going to have someone to unload the truck, or you're not going to have someone put all the food away before the restaurant hours open. I mean, there's so many different variables that come into effect while we're trying to put employee protection rights out there, and we're trying to build stability. We're cutting jobs, because in all reality, that's not how these industries operate. And without these flexibilities and with these additional regulations, we don't get those industries in our communities. And when you're talking about rural communities specifically, you don't have that much workforce to pull with. We get really creative. We get really equitable, more in that so than an urban community, because you get flexible when you meet an employee where they're at. Now having these additional regulations, employee flexibilities, we love the idea of supporting employees, but we're really eliminating the job opportunities in our area because it's more regulation and it's more cost. So the amount of tracking that it takes to do these additional hours, this additional PTO, the shortness that comes with it, you as a business owner that's running your business because of the hobby that you enjoy, this is another thing outside of your realm that you have to keep track of and make sure that you're maintaining. And it's going to be different if an employee goes to Leo, goes to the state of Michigan, or if they go to an employment lawyer. the wording is just too vague. And that was one of the things we were advocating for last fall was, if the stuff goes through, can you give us more guidelines? Because at this point, as an employer, you're almost coming up with it, because you're guessing what Leo is going to be expecting. You're guessing what the employment lawyers are going to. So we highly recommended people reach out to the Michigan Chamber of Commerce. They've got a toolbox out there. They had an employment lawyer committee put this information together. We recommended people reach out to the Leo website because they had their frequently asked questions. Mm-hmm. That's so much for a small business, for a hospitality business, right, for an independent contractor, for a consultant, all of these industries that are trying to get a job done now have to add this to the plate. And so it really restricts the services that are being provided in our rural community and the job opportunities. I mean, when you're a small business and you're an independent contractor, or you're a consultant, you're not going to hire the people you need to complete jobs because it's that much more work to get it done. And you can't trust that you're going to be doing it right and not get yourself in trouble.
It's very interesting, and I wanted to have you in here to talk about this because on the surface, you look at it and say, "Oh, part-time hours. I work 30. I get an hour of paid time off for those for each of those 30 hours that I work. What's wrong with that?" That's what's wrong with that, right? It's more work on small businesses. So I'm glad we have that perspective.
It is hard, and we're here for the support of our employees. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, that support doesn't get to exist if the job doesn't exist, right, or if the business doesn't get to exist. We were talking about the tipped wages before this, and if you're being paid minimum wage, that means the restaurant's paying that. With operation increases, with food increases, this is an additional cost that your restaurants don't currently have. And now having to pay the minimum wage for all these.
Right.
And you're really going to be minimizing what those tipped waged workers are making, especially in a community like ours, which is so tourism based.
Right.
You're not making minimum wage on a regular hour during a tourism season, but you'll be limited to that if that job still exists, because the restaurant was able to pay that for you to do that full year, which isn't going to be the capacity of a lot of our restaurants that have been fighting to survive with all the COVID regulations and increased costs as is. Restaurants aren't getting rich right now.
No.
Hotels aren't getting rich right now. To add such an extreme cost, we're talking going from $3 an hour to $15 an hour per employee for every single one of those employees. That's just the employee cost. Now you're talking about the additional cost of having your HR contract doing more paperwork. Now you're talking about the additional cost of hiring additional people so I'm paying you $15 an hour for your PTO, but I'm also having to pay $15 an hour for the 1 to 2 additional people that need to be on that schedule at the exact same time in case you do take PTO at a short-term notice. So I'm not only increasing the cost of the employee, but with these new regulations and the shortcome of you being able to report, I'm having to budget for 2 to 3 people in that given hour. So maybe it was $10,000 increase in cost, which is insane for a small business right now to talk on. I'm talking 30,000 plus because I'm just on the employment level to make sure that I have people working my office at any given time, which is, who can add that when they're struggling so much already?
It's daunting.
So daunting.
Mm-hmm. I know a study came out recently that correct me if I'm wrong, but it was like 25 to 30% of restaurants were facing closure if this was going to happen, right? And their choice is either that or raise the prices on the food, on the meals, to the point where it would be hard to find people to afford to go out to eat. Is that the concern?
100%. And we've seen it already. So many of the restaurants closed after COVID with the regulation increases. Right. It's so much more to operate than it used to be. And the costs have already been so extreme. We travel quite a bit with the Northern Michigan Chamber Alliance, and we're always staying at someone's local restaurant when we're having a meeting on purpose. And we're talking to the owners and the managers. And just in the 4 years that I've been at the Cadillac Chamber, a number of the restaurants that were our go-to restaurants on each one of those local communities have either sold or closed because it is too hard. And these are the businesses that are hiring your neighbors. They're the people that have invested in your community for an extended period of time. They had the pride. They had the investment. They wanted to serve their community with the passion that they have. And they don't have the capacity to do that anymore because we've regulated and cost them out completely outside of the industry cost increase of food, transportation, and operation. And that's just not fair, especially on a state that is so tourism oriented and based.
What would you tell someone coming to the area that said, you know what, I'm going to open up a business? Someone who's never done it before, a rookie. What would you tell them?
Well, anytime someone comes to the chamber and says, I want to open a business, we surround them immediately. Don't do this alone.
Right.
You need to have a Venture North person with you. You need to have a Small Business Development Center person with you. You need to have an Alliance for Economic Success person with you. You need someone with the Michigan Chamber, the Northern Michigan Chamber Alliance. You need us. Are you going to be in us? Are you going to be in the Missaukee County? You need to have that Missaukee Chamber of Commerce with you as well. You need to have the Marion Chamber of Commerce if you're looking at locating in Marion. You can't do this by yourself. And when people come up with ideas and they get really excited, the Small Business Development Center, we said, get with your counselor because they're a phenomenal resource for the business plan portion of it. And they're so in tune and work with small business plans on a daily basis. They can tell you what's going on in the economy right now. They can tell you what's going on in the market. They'll remind you to think of these 16 other variables because you were really excited about 5 other variables.
Right. They'll help you with your focus.
They'll help you with the focus, but they'll also be realistic with you. And while you're building that business plan with their empowerment, and don't forget, you're focusing on other elements, the accounting legislation, the HR legislation, marketing and communications, all these things that are just so expensive to operate a business completely outside of your hobby, making sure you have the right people advocating on behalf of and making sure you're getting connected with the most appropriate consultants or local people that can fit your budget but are here for you being successful in the area as well. When you're brand new in an area, you don't know who the local businesses are and which ones are going to fit my business best for the flexibility I'm going to need. We're very intentional about that too. And we have that capacity at the Cadillac Area Chamber of Commerce because we have such an intimate relationship with so many of the businesses already. Certain businesses fit certain industries and certain types of scheduling differently. And we're very intentional about that on purpose.
Wow. You know, it would be interesting to talk to, you know, Greg from Brinks or the new owner of the sweet shop, or to say, what would you tell somebody that they might not know about owning your own storefront on Mitchell Street?
Probably lots.
Yes.
And then just say, if you could do it again, would you still go in?
What would you do differently?
Yeah, right. You know, I had a friend once that owned a toy store. And I remember, you know, her telling me that she was going to open up this toy store and me thinking, you don't want to dash anybody's dream, right? You don't ever, I mean, if someone's passionate about something, you want to be their best cheerleader. That's what friends are. But the banker in me, I mean, it made me very nervous about, now everybody at the house isn't quitting their job to do this, right? You know what I mean? We still have someone on a W-2 over here, right? That kind of a conversation. And of course it all ended up working out. But I think a lot of these people would tell you how much they learned, you know, at launching. It's just a ice water baptism. You learn so much so quickly because you have to survive.
And for such an extended period of time in Michigan, we had the flexibilities to have different types of businesses so you could start on different formats or platforms. And we still have those flexibilities. And we would still line you up with partners that could help you get those types of elements started. The more and more regulation that you have in support of making sure employees are taken care of just limits that type of flexibility to getting businesses started, though.
What should we be doing as consumers and local citizens to support our business community? Love to hear your perspective.
Keep shopping and think of them.
Okay.
And walk in, say hello. And I'm saying that because so many people, too, they have their perceptions of what the businesses are or what they're utilizing them in any of the capacities. Check out, are they online? Mm-hmm. Do they have come to your door? Can you order your coffee and come out to the parking spot? Can you do takeout? Can you come into the business even just for a short period of time? Do you have to look through the whole store? Do they have more than one location? Meeting the business a little bit more at where they're at allows that business to still operate. The more the businesses we have on our front doors is a huge support for so much more than just a business being in what would be a vacant spot. I mean, I'm talking so holistic. If I'm applying for a grant for sidewalks, for water infrastructure downtown, if I'm talking about housing grants, I have to tell the Michigan Economic Development Corporation or Congressman Molinar's office or the USDA, whoever I'm applying for a grant from, I have to say how many businesses are operating downtown, how many people are living downtown. Mm-hmm. And we're talking, this isn't just your business surviving day to day. Your business has to survive every single year because I'm trying to get hundreds of thousands of dollars, or I'm trying to apply for millions of dollars to have major infrastructure done. And that can only happen when every single one of my businesses are succeeding and they're operating. But we're talking flower baskets to new high-rises. There's not that any individual business is responsible for any part of that. That's why there's 16 community partners working at all levels. But that's why it is so important. As a consumer, the person coaching your kid's soccer team is your neighbor, and they're also pumping the gas next to you at the gas station. Their wife is the business owner, or their consultant for a product. They're the banker.
Their name is on the back of the T-shirts of your young soccer player.
Right.
Because they sponsor. Mm-hmm. It's huge.
So important.
In a small community, each person that you're talking to is connected to you in a plethora of ways. You're supporting so much more than just walking in today. Those campaigns, they've gone on, but truly in a small community, in rural communities, where we get so creative, valuing that creativity so that we can continue to meet employees where they're at equitably, will only give us that edge as regulations continue to increase, because we're fighting for the fact that we're continuing to invest and give jobs to people where they're at, which is mandatory and important when people have so much more responsibility than they used to.
Mm-hmm. It's true, and we're just so blessed to have all the services available to us in the area, and that's why we have to keep supporting these folks, and then hopefully more people look at Cadillac as a destination, but also a location to launch. I've got a great example. I had a girlfriend that was having a decade birthday, and it was a big birthday, and she's a big personality. And I thought, what would be better than a monogrammed bathrobe? But of course, I came up with this idea 2 days before her birthday. Excuse me. So got my hands on a gorgeous, plush, luxurious floor-length bathrobe. And then I called Creative Embroidery. Now I'm 24 hours from the birthday. And I'm like, what are the odds if I stop by of me being able to get a royal purple name put on in very flowery lettering? Absolutely, we'll do it. How soon can you get it here? And you can't do that in a metropolitan area. You can't have something custom done in one day, or in this case 2 hours, and it's ready. And the person's got a smile on their face, and they put all their other work aside to help you out. Only in Cadillac.
100%. When people are willing to go out of their way for their people.
Right.
And you don't have, and that's switching contracts, that's switching contractors, that's making sure that you're able to operate. My husband's an independent contractor. Heating, cooling, utilities, priority every single time. Drops everything he's doing, and that's a priority for our family because that's our neighbors. Right. That's the people I work with on a regular basis. That's the employees of the people that I work with on a regular basis. We don't want, and it doesn't matter what we're doing. We've made that a goal, and that's a small town thing, and that's so important. you're not going to get that anywhere else. But the more we increase these regulations, the less flexibility we have for that type of stuff. Semi-truck drivers only being able to drive so much. Right. Utility workers only being able to work so many hours. Well, that limits the people being able to get what they need. And while we're here in support, people need electricity for medical supplies, for their health, their business. We're not talking just streaming, which is what's thrown under the bus so much. Amazon, it's great. Even on a great day, it's 2 days though. In a small business, it can be 2 hours. And that's why it's so important to protect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the right word, isn't it? Protect. Yeah, I have a client that's contracts with Amazon, his products. And he's so clever that when in his packaging, so his stuff goes to the Amazon warehouse, right? In his packaging is a communicate directly with me note. So he's like, they find out about me through Amazon, but once they get one of my products, they have my business card with a coupon for the next time. So when they buy directly through me, it's going to be less expensive. And we treat Amazon like it's this big ugly monster when in fact it really has made life quite convenient, but we've got to use discretion. If we can buy it local, we should be.
Well, and absolutely. And I know big box stores for an extended period of time became the big monster 10, 15 years ago because our small businesses were going out. But even big box stores, the number we've always used is 33% of that dollar still comes back from hiring, employees, taxes, the benefits, incentives. Even just being local helps. But even Amazon, that downtown packaging program, we were at 5 days here in our area post-COVID. When your downtown businesses started delivering packages, we got back to 2 days. And that gave staffers in downtown businesses jobs, and it was paying downtown businesses to help meet their goals and their needs, but also generated an additional revenue source for our downtown businesses. Right. So that was a really big deal. Mm-hmm. It's easy to throw some of those names under. People are appreciative of the services that meet their needs. Ultimately, if you're willing to see people and hear people, truly listen to those that are running businesses, initiatives, fundraisers, you're going to really hear what the needs are, and you meeting them where you can and what that capacity is, it makes a huge difference.
It does. There was such a heartwarming story in Benzie County about a family that had lost their home to a fire, and how the liaison officer, the police officer, got some resources around and went to a big box store to replenish things, the necessities. And the employees in the big box store, they all started chipping in money, and maybe the family needs this. And the guy was in a hurry because it was the holidays. And he said he ended up staying in the store, law enforcement, ended up staying in the store significantly longer because all of the donations made by the store and the employees. We forget people really care.
They do. 100%. Salvation Army is a great example of that.
Wonderful.
Captain Greg's one of a kind.
Yes, he's mandatory.
Yeah, they broke the mold with
They
Greg.
did.
You want to know a funny story about ringing the bell? I was ringing the bell outside of Walmart, and this lady was walking by, and I knew her, but I was busy talking and greeting and ringing, and she walked by me, and she turned around, she goes, "It's you, isn't it?" She goes, "And now I got the guilt. Here's some money." She shoved the money in the kettle. She said, "Now I feel guilty because I'm not ringing the bell. I haven't volunteered, and I was going to walk by you and not give you any money, and I just can't do it. So here you go." So I'm okay with a little guilt.
Yeah, that's absolutely. So beyond the business advocacy, what else is on your radar for 2025, Caitlyn? In the couple minutes we have left.
Support, protect, and really invest. Whether it's your local sports fundraiser, I recommend getting involved this upcoming year. We're in 2025 now, so we're going to be 5 years out past COVID. Make a difference this year. And you don't know what that looks like yet. Just start showing up. Just start reading. Whether it's on a new Facebook page locally, whether it's the newspaper, whether you're just checking out websites of the Visitors Bureau, your local EDO, your Chamber of Commerce, Find out where you fit in. And if you don't know what that looks like yet, ask a business owner. Where do you need help today? Where can I, and focus on your strengths. Where do you feel strongest? Where do you feel most passionate? And you might not know what that is. Just start to pay attention. Mm-hmm. What gets you motivated in your office? Because your community is waiting for you. We are ready for you. And we can strive so much farther with you being involved, with you being engaged. We are waiting for your strengths in our community, and we're so excited to have that participate. So for 2025, your local Chamber of Commerce is asking you to get involved, to get engaged, so that we can continue to protect your investment and protect the work that you're doing.
She's the champion for Cadillac.
It's a beautiful way to end the show. Caitlyn Stark, president of the Cadillac Area Chamber of Commerce, thank you for being our first guest of 2025 and our 5th anniversary guest. We appreciate it.
I'm honored. Congratulations.
Thank you. Join us next week for 5 years plus 1 week on Cadillac Unscripted, sponsored by Independent Bank on 107.9 CDY.